guys, welcome to a reputable shop. This is my home garage. I'm not a mechanic, but we like to play with cars here. This is a project we're working on for a friend of ours. We're trading some work for some surprises that'll come on the Mclaren, but we're gonna be working on the Mclaren today. So I don't like the Android Iris system in these McLarens, especially the older ones like this 570. It functions. You can have a navigation, you can have some radio, you could even connect your phone in and get some functionality, but it is not modern by any means. And really, let's be honest, what is modern now? Modern is CarPlay. So what we really want to do is get CarPlay set up in this. And so what I've done is I've gone out and I've purchased an aftermarket CarPlay setup, and we are going to do that install.
In general, there appears to be two ways to add CarPlay to your Mclaren 570 or 600. The first method replaces your central screen with a new Android screen that includes CarPlay. There is a way to bypass the screen to get to your original Mclaren interface, but it is a new screen and a new device. The second method uses your original OEM screen and adds a CarPlay computer behind it. You can go into the CarPlay section by connecting your phone, but otherwise it's a stock OEM system. I went with the second method as it feels more OEM to me. The only time you're actually using the aftermarket system is when you choose to use CarPlay, and that was my preference. But both of these should work, and they work on similar functionality. The only other thing to note is that these systems require you to connect your phone to Bluetooth within the OEM Iris screen to allow audio to work. Both the microphone and the audio for the speakers work through Bluetooth. This is because the audio quality is better according to the manufacturers. These systems work with the OEM Iris system by interrupting the signal and then swapping between the OEM signal or the CarPlay signal depending upon what you're trying to do. If you're in CarPlay, their computer runs the display. If you're not in CarPlay, the OEM screen will run the display. Now let's see what we have in the box. First, we have the CarPlay computer. You also get a little bit of Velcro to help mount it. Next, we have the power harness. This plugs in between your main loom and the GPS control unit that's under the center console. You get two antennas. You get the display harness that plugs in between the screen and the GPS control unit. And you get the wiring harness that has the USB plug for connecting your phone. One thing you don't see here is instructions, and that's why I decided to make this video. You really don't get instructions on these items. The videos online are not all that great, especially if you're trying to install in a car. Now let's get started and let's see where this goes. So although this installation isn't particularly difficult, it is fairly extensive. You'll need to remove the center console, which means you need to remove the rear parcel shelf in order to reach a few bolts. You also need to remove the screen and the inner kick panels in the footwell. All this work is to get to the head unit or the GPS module that's under the center console. I'm not going to walk you through each of those steps in full detail, but if there are requests, maybe I'll do a separate video. So let's get in, remove this kick panel from both sides. These panels are held in with a few push clips, so just go slow and they'll both pop right off. Oh yeah, this is a good time to remove the under dash panels as well. We're going to move on to removing the display panel now. There's a plastic trim panel held in with 4 screws, and underneath that on the very bottom edge of the screen you will find 2 small silver screws holding the panel in. There are 2 clips up near the top, and the display will slide out. The cable is held in pretty tightly, and there's a small button on the side of the plug that if you hold, you can wiggle to release the loom. Continuing down our path of destruction, we need to remove the rear parcel shelf to be able to reach the bolts for the center console. First, you gotta pop out the child seat trim piece, which is held in with some clips. Then you'll need to unscrew each of the netting hooks with a small hex wrench or an Allen key. After that, you can remove the plastic fuse box cover and then the seat belt trim panels. To remove each of these, you'll need to unsnap the emergency door release, pull back the door gasket a little bit, and then the trim panel will pop out. It's kind of held in with a couple clips, so be careful because they can break. Keep in mind, I did all this just to get at 2 bolts that hold the back of the center console in. I went ahead and removed the rest of the center console bolts, which includes 2 bolts on the side of the center console under the dash, several hex screws under the rubber mats throughout the console, and the 2 at the back of the console. Including the mat under the armrest, there are 3 rubber mats with screws underneath, so you'll need to pull those up and remove all of those screws. The panel of buttons with the drive modes is held on with 2 screws at the bottom or the back, and then a few clips near the front that will pop out, and there's just 2 electrical connections you need to undo. And now after removing all that, we can finally see the head unit, which is here in this black bracket. Go ahead and remove the bolts that hold the black bracket to the car. There are 2 at the bottom that are plastic or go into the plastic bracket, and then at the top there are 2 black Torx screws. Remove those, remove the plastic clips that hold the wires to the front of this, and that will make it loose enough for us to get to the parts we need. With everything loose, we can finally see the wires at the top of the head unit. To the right, there's a blue connector, and then just next to it is a black connector. Those are the 2 connectors that we're going to need to remove. The blue connector has a lever. You're going to press the button, slide the lever all the way to the right, and it'll come undone. And the black connector has a little button on the side. Now with all of that loose, it's time to start connecting wires. First, we're going to connect the black display harness that came with the CarPlay kit. One side will plug into the connector that was in the back of the head unit, and the other side of that will plug into the head unit itself. Then we'll connect the blue connector that was in the back of the head unit to the blue harness that came with the CarPlay kit. Both those wires can be routed up under the dash over to the passenger footwell, because we're going to mount the CarPlay unit up under the dash on that side. Now showing here on the CarPlay side, all the plugs only go into one spot, so you can't really plug this side wrong. Then, after finding a couple empty spots to put your antennas that come with the CarPlay kit, go ahead and push all the wires back in and reverse what you did to put the console back together. If you made it this far, I'm going to assume that you can put it back together. So this is it. We have a working CarPlay system. We do need to make sure that the audio is connected to Bluetooth, otherwise you're not going to get any audio when you connect your iPhone. Other than that, it's really responsive. It does utilize the whole screen or the whole iris screen, and I'm pretty happy with it. If you have any questions about this install or are having trouble doing your own, please feel free to reach out.